Gale, in terms of revenue growth strategy, let's focus on that for a minute. So,
Okay.
how do you pivot your revenue growth strategy in the midst of disruption? And what are the revenue growth opportunities that you are seeing? That's a big question we keep hearing.
Got it. Well, the how to will go back to the innovation component that is so important. And the key thing there is when the thunderbolt hits, what you need to figure out is how do you change those three elements of strategy, and the input that you get on that comes from constant interviews with your clients and others in the market. So the interviews are the raw material. What that will do is the buyers will tell you what they don't want to buy and what they want to buy and how they want it served up and so forth. So the interviews basically inform what that strategy is going to be. An example what I used last week was you're a vendor that provides bottled water, and your bottled water stand is on the entrances to the Sahara Desert, and you're doing a great business and you have been for years, and then all of a sudden it rains. And it's the deluge, and it's 40 days and 40 nights of rain, and now there are oases everywhere, and they don't need bottled water. And so you are basically out of business. And so the question is, if you start asking these people, well, what do you need? You'll find they need rain gear, and they need containers for the water that they're going to get out of the oases and so forth. So it's really important to do a lot of these interviews and memorialize them. I actually have a consultant crisis consulting, client crisis consulting pipeline method that we capture all of that, take a look at it, and see what is it they need. We've had such a tremendous shift now. For example, you can see audits slowing down in lieu of reviews. You've seen also PPP has taken front and center. It has been a gift from the government for sure. Consultants who are listening very closely are seeing things like pivoting to projections, and I wrote an article recently about that, around inventory and workflow analysis and resizing and debt strategies and restructuring and so forth. Now, some firms will take this and use it as an opportunity to just, put out their thought leadership and then sit and aggressively wait for the phone to ring, as Sam Allred would say. But the ones who are really driving it and optimizing their revenue are packaging the innovation. It's not enough, therefore, and that's my second point. The first point is interviews. The second point is packaging. It's not enough to just go out there and, do stuff like 13-week cash flows. You have to put a wrapper on it and have it be distinctive. And the example I'll use is for those of you who have children, when your son or daughter was born, you didn't call them girl or boy, you gave them a name. And the minute you gave them a name, it became distinctive, and there's a personality around this child and so forth. So the path to low revenue and little dribs and drabs of advice and counsel is just to put it out there or to call your clients and say, do you need some advice? But the way to drive serious revenue is through that whole area of packaging, because you're leading them. You're leading them from PPP to EID to forgiveness to going beyond 13-week cash flow into deep data analytics and then on to strategic planning. And you're always a step ahead of them and showing them where to go. This is something called the product life cycle that was designed or discovered many years ago by the Boston Consulting Group. And basically, they noticed that all markets and all services and all products go through a predictable shift in it as they mature out. And revenue starts really low, and then it shifts and goes hockey sticks up, and then it planes out as you mature out. And we are over here with our core services in the mid-market accounting firm market. And what happens when revenue is going like that is that margins that start out really thin, they increase, and then the margins end up being very, very thin over here. The main point about this is that each of these stages requires you to shift your strategy. And if you know that you can't hang out in one stage forevermore, you're going to know that the shift in the strategy needs to occur, and you'll see when it does need to occur. If you're in early stage, the strategic imperative is to get early adopters, prove out the concept, be very efficient with it, and to scale it. Then you shift to the diamond stage, which is that you are discovering your strategy to get it replicatable, to get it nailed down so that you can have great growth. And then as competition enters, you come into cash cow, your margins are starting to thin. The objective here is to innovate and specialize. And then as you mature out and you have very thin margins in your core services, what happens is you need to innovate and drive efficiency. Crises can happen at any time, as you can see right now with our economic conditions, but they certainly happen with a fat cat. And they usually happen in one of four flavors. The first one is a competitor will come in, or a competitive alternative will come in and rock your market. If it doesn't happen there, it'll happen with technology. And a great example there is the cloud, and how the cloud has completely unleashed a series of technologies that has really struck our market hard and shifted many things about it. The third thunderbolt is regulation. And of course, we see regulation all the time that spawn new services, and we're seeing it right now with the loan assistance programs. And then the fourth one, of course, is economic conditions. As I mentioned, economic conditions can go up or can go down. It doesn't matter which way they're going. The reality is that you know that your number one objective is to drive innovation. And what happens is that the original service gets itself reconfigured in a different shape and a different size, and you're seeing that happen with our audits. And but at the same time, when you have, especially now with economic conditions, you have new service opportunities that are now spawning off of this, and that is where the new services are, and they come right back over into early stage. So the word of the day is innovation, and the ability to understand that innovation plays a huge role, and those three elements of strategy will enable you to innovate your service for the right buyer group and the right conditions, and therefore continue to grow.